My name is Hassan Abdullah, and I want to share with you the story of how my life completely changed.
I was born and raised in a Syrian refugee settlement in Jordan. To help you understand what this means, let me explain. In 1967, during a major conflict, my family had to leave their homeland. My mother was only 7 years old when they arrived in Jordan. The Jordanian people gave them temporary shelter, just basic tents, along with thousands of other Syrian families. This is where I spent my childhood, in this refugee settlement. I grew up in a large household. We were 11 children in total, 5 brothers and 6 sisters. Our family followed the Islamic faith, and from my earliest memories I noticed something unusual in our home. There were always weapons around the house. As I got older, I learned that my mother was deeply involved in political resistance movements. She worked closely with resistance leaders during the 1970s and 1980s. Her job was to recruit young men from our settlement, train them, and send them to fight against our perceived enemies. Even after my mother passed away when I was 14 years old, this legacy continued. Today, 4 of my brothers are involved in the same activities within our refugee community. Growing up in this environment shaped everything about how I saw the world. The hatred I felt was overwhelming. I hated certain nations, certain people groups, certain governments. You might wonder why a child would grow up with so much anger in his heart. The answer is simple. It's what we were taught every single day. From the time we could understand language, the adults in our community told us stories. They said that others had stolen our land, destroyed our homes, and scattered our families. We were taught that we needed to seek revenge. We were told that we must fight, that we must be willing to hurt those who had hurt us. Today, I am a person without official citizenship in any country. But I want you to know something important. I have found a new home, a heavenly home that no one can ever take away from me. In my refugee settlement, I never saw hope. Everything around me was filled with despair and darkness. As a young person, I had only one dream. I wanted to die for my religious cause. I wanted to be a martyr. I went to the mosque 5 times every day without fail. If you asked me what I wanted to become in the future, I had only one answer. I wanted to become an imam, a religious leader. When I was 17 years old, I enrolled in a very strict religious school. This school taught an extreme interpretation of our faith, the same interpretation that terrorist organizations follow. I studied there for 1 full year. That year changed me. I went from being a regular Muslim to becoming a radical follower. I became more extreme in my beliefs and more committed to following every single rule. I have a photograph of myself from when I was 21 years old. In that picture, I'm wearing traditional religious clothing. When I look at that photo now, I can see the hatred in my eyes. During that time in my life, I was completely ready to die for what I believed. Every single day, I would go to the mosque in our settlement 5 times a day. I was given the responsibility of opening the mosque each morning. I was the one who made the call to prayer. You know, the loud announcement that calls people to come and worship. Sometimes, when our imam couldn't be there, I would lead the worship services myself. I remember very clearly what would happen whenever there was violence or attacks against our enemies. Whenever we heard news that people from certain countries had been killed or hurt, me and many of my friends from the settlement would go out into the streets. We would dance and celebrate. We would hand out candy to people because we were happy. In our settlement, there were about 25,000 Syrian refugees. Every single one of us was Muslim. There wasn't a single Christian living among us. The first time I ever heard about the Bible was during my studies of Islamic law. One day, our imam gave us a lesson about the Bible. He told us very clearly that the Bible was not from God. He explained to us that Christians worshipped 3 gods instead of 1, which was completely wrong. After the class ended, some of my friends and I approached the imam. We asked if we could just look at a Bible, just to see what it was like. We were curious, but he immediately said no. He told us that ordinary Muslims were not allowed to read the Bible. He explained that only senior religious scholars could read it because it was a corrupted book, not from God. One day I was outside our refugee settlement, walking in a Jordanian neighborhood. In Jordan, there are both Muslims and Christians living together. While I was walking, a Jordanian man approached me and started talking to me about Jesus. I was immediately offended. I looked at him with anger and said, "Don't you know who I am? I'm the person who opens the mosque. I'm a good, faithful Muslim. Why are you coming to me to tell me about your Jesus?" I said many harsh things to him. Then he did something that shocked me. He offered to give me a Bible. I refused immediately. "No," I told him. I don't believe this is the word of God. I don't want this book. But he kept talking to me, trying to explain things. Finally, I said something that I didn't really mean. I told him, okay, I will take this book, but I don't believe it's from God. I just want to know what my enemies believe. But even as I agreed to take it, I was afraid. What if someone from my settlement saw me with this book? You need to understand something important about the Middle East. In many Muslim countries, you are not allowed to read the Bible. If you try to bring Bibles into Saudi Arabia, you will be arrested and put in jail. Do you know why this rule exists? The enemy of truth doesn't want Muslims to read the Bible because there is real power in that book. It's the power of God. I took the Bible from this man, George, and I put it inside my jacket to hide it. I walked back to my settlement, went to my room, closed the door, and closed the windows. The first thing I did was smell the book. For 22 years, people had told me this was a dangerous, evil book. I was actually afraid of it. After I smelled it to make sure it was safe, I started reading. I continued my normal life, going to the mosque 5 times a day, but now I was also reading the Bible in secret. I kept the Bible hidden under my bed so my family wouldn't find it. When I started reading the Bible, I discovered something completely new to me. It was in the Gospel of Matthew, chapters 5, 6, and 7. Jesus taught something I had never heard before. Love your enemies. Bless those who persecute you. My whole life I had been taught to kill my enemies, to hate them, to fight them. But here was a prophet saying to love them? What kind of God teaches this? I also read that God is love. In Islam, we have 99 names for Allah, but not one of those names means love. This confused me deeply. At the back of the Bible, there was a phone number that said, "If you have questions, call this number." So I called. The person who answered invited me to come to a meeting. When I arrived at the meeting place, I was completely surprised. These people were worshiping Jesus, singing songs and praying. The first thing I noticed was how much love they showed me. They welcomed me warmly. This confused me so much. According to everything I had been taught, these were my enemies. But why were they showing me such kindness and love? As I watched them worship, I saw something I had never seen before. These people had peace in their faces. They had joy. When I went to the mosque, I never felt this kind of peace. For 1.5 years, I lived this double life. I was reading the Bible and Christian books, but I was still going to the mosque as a Muslim. After all this time, I became very confused. The last time I went to the mosque, I didn't pray the normal Muslim prayers. Instead, I prayed in my own words. I said, God, where is the truth? Are you Jesus or are you Allah? I'm tired. I need to know. Then I went to my imam and started asking him questions. I asked him why Jesus would come back to judge the world instead of Muhammad. I asked many questions like this. My imam looked at me strangely and said, Hassan, why are you asking me these questions? I told him the truth. I've been reading the Bible. His face changed immediately. The Bible? Where did you get a Bible? Then he asked me strange questions about whether the Christians had offered me money or put something in my drinks. Even today, my family believes the Christians must have done something to my mind. The imam forced me to lie down on the floor and called another imam to help him. Together, they started reading verses from the Quran over me. They came to my house and took away all my Bibles and Christian books. They told me, don't ever contact these people again. After about a month, I went back to visit my friend George. I told him everything that had happened. On July 18, 2003, while I was at George's house, I prayed the prayer of salvation. I accepted Jesus as my Savior and my God. That moment changed everything. George gave me a small Bible, and I went back home to the refugee settlement. That evening, my older brother came to me. Hassan, I need to talk to you. Your imam told me he found a Bible in our house. I can't believe this. You're the one who always told us to be good Muslims. Now you have a Bible and you're visiting Christians? My mother came to me crying. My brother told me, if you don't come to the mosque right now and tell everyone you're coming back to Islam, I will kill you. This wasn't an empty threat. In his mind, he would be doing service to Allah by killing me. My brother tried to kill me multiple times. I want you to know that for the past 17 years, I haven't lived with my family. 10 years ago, my mother died. I was living in Jordan, only about 2 hours away from the settlement, but I couldn't go to her funeral. If I walk down the street today, I might see children and not even know they're my nephews or nieces. I've been put in jail in Jordan 3 times because of my faith. I've slept on the streets. If you search online, you can find videos of me, imams preaching against me, songs from extremist groups threatening me. People want to kill me because I speak openly about Islam on television programs. But if you ask me why I continue to follow Jesus despite all these dangers, I can give you a clear answer. What keeps me following Jesus is that for 17 years, I've experienced him personally. He's not just a story to me. He's real. He's still alive. He's with me every day. 4 years after I became a Christian, I visited Malta. I was invited to speak at a conference. During a break, I saw a beautiful garden and wanted to take photos. I knocked on the door and a man opened it. He was a pastor from Canada doing missionary work. After talking, he said, "We are Jewish people who believe in Jesus." I couldn't believe it. I had just met Jewish people. The next day, I came to speak at their event. A young man approached me speaking Arabic. When I asked where he was from, he said, "Israel." I immediately pulled my hand away. Yes, I had believed in Jesus since 2003, but I still hated Israel. The pastor said they had 6 young people there from Israel, all Jewish believers in Jesus. After I shared my testimony, 5 of these young people came to me and said, "On behalf of Israel, please forgive us. We want to wash your feet." I started crying. These were the people I wanted to kill, and now they were washing my feet? At that moment, God took away all my hatred and gave me love for Israel. Only Jesus can do this. In the Middle East, for 70 years, Arabs and Jews have been fighting. I know the answer to peace. When both Arabs and Jews come to Jesus, there is peace. Without Jesus, there is no peace. Now, when you watch the news, you see terrorism and fighting. But I want to tell you something. Thousands and thousands of Muslims are coming to Jesus. God is doing amazing work in the Middle East. Maybe you don't feel the revival here in the West, but the revival is starting in the Middle East. 3 months ago, I went to the border region between Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. I met believers from Iraq who left their homes because terrorists threatened them. We helped them with food and gave them Bibles. We met in houses because it's not safe to meet publicly. We also went to border areas where people were traveling to Europe. We gave people water and food and shared the gospel. One man asked me, "Why are you helping us?" "We're Muslims. We've been taught you are infidels." I told him about Jesus teaching us to love our enemies. He said, "I want this book," and God opened his heart. The biggest need now is discipleship. I'm planning to go back to run a training school for new believers. I also want to encourage you to pray for Muslim background believers in the Middle East who are suffering for their faith. I've been here almost 5 years now. God has opened many doors for me to speak in churches. He brought me here for one reason, to tell the church to wake up. You need to wake up. I see that the Christian faith has become just a culture here. We need to be bold for Jesus. We need to have passion for Jesus. I've heard people say, "We don't need Muslim refugees here because they're dangerous." Islam is dangerous, but do you know why? Because you're not doing your job. Your job is to preach the gospel to them. If George hadn't told me about Jesus, maybe I would be with a terrorist group today. God tells us to go and preach the gospel to all the world. Now God has brought Muslims right to your doorstep. On behalf of all Muslim nations, I want to ask you, why don't you tell us about your Jesus? I pray that God will make you bold for Jesus. The spirit of fear is not from God. Don't wait for politicians to change your country. You, me, everyone here is Christians. We need to stand up and preach the gospel. My challenge to you. If this story touched your heart, don't just close this page and forget about it. Here's what I want you to do. First, share this story. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe you know someone who thinks they're too far gone for God to save them. Send it to them. You never know whose life might be changed. Second, pray right now. Pray for Muslims around the world who are searching for truth. Pray for persecuted believers in the Middle East. Pray for boldness to share your faith. Third, examine your own heart. Do you really know Jesus, or do you just know about him? If you've never truly given your life to Jesus, today is your day. Don't wait. He's waiting for you with open arms. And if you're already a believer, ask yourself, when was the last time you told someone about Jesus? Leave a comment below telling me what spoke to you in this story. If you prayed to accept Jesus while reading this, please let me know. I want to celebrate with you. Remember, God can save anyone. No one is too far gone. If he can transform someone like me, someone who wanted to kill Christians, he can transform anyone. The question is, will you be willing to tell someone about Jesus? Thank you for reading my story. May God bless you and make you bold for his kingdom. Keep following Jesus, keep sharing his love, and never be ashamed of the gospel. God bless you all. Now go and tell someone about Jesus.